then I had like a bit of a mental dream that involved his head, and that's how all the artwork and the concept for that kind of came apart, really, with the skull with the lightning bolts going in each ears. It's like a woman's show, just like a woman's show, just like a woman's show, just like a woman's show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Alex Alicia, and this morning I am joined on Zoom by someone who's nicknamed Black Spider, hence the band Black Spiders. It's frontman and guitarist Pete Spiby. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Weirdly, in a time like this, music could be the thing that brings everybody together, but we can't do it. So that's obviously not great for fans and musicians alike, and making money and that kind of thing, especially if you're a new band as well. But for you personally, obviously because you are a creative, did you find lockdown to have helped that or hindered that in any way?
It was only at the beginning of this year when we started working on a few ideas, and then we actually, myself and Ozzy, one of the guitarists in the band, started getting together to put some music together to see where it was going to take us, really. And then lockdown came crashing in. For us, it's a bit of a success story, I guess, because
For sure.
It really did get our creative juices going.
Yeah.
And so we actually started writing more songs than we've probably ever written in a space of time than we have done previously.
Yeah.
And we were doing stuff on GarageBand and sending those backwards and forwards to each other, and before we knew where we were, we had more than 2 albums worth of material to kind of work on.
Yeah.
And then out of that came our new album and an EP, because we recorded so much stuff. So
Yeah.
it wasn't through lack of boredom or anything, because obviously there's plenty of stuff to do during lockdown, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it just got us going a bit more creatively together again, and then that positive vibe kind of just took a hold, and really like we couldn't stop writing songs. We couldn't we couldn't get enough of it, really. And I think if we would have been doing this before, maybe we wouldn't have took a break.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
If we thought it was that easy, because before it was it was difficult getting together, because at the time, up until about a year ago, I'd been living in London. Mark's still over in Spain. It was just quite difficult getting it together to do anything, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a positive thing that we've had through COVID, is that we've actually managed to get it back together and fulfill the fact that we've got back together and made a record, and we'll probably make another one as well.
Yeah.
So
Why music for you? Why did you decide that music was going to be your career? What kind of started that off?
Oh God. I don't know. I mean, I've always been into music, and I've got 2 older sisters who kind of basically, ingrained it in me from an early age. We always used to listen to the radio. Like we were always like they always had records, that always went through different sort of phases of being into different sorts of music.
Yeah.
And and so I heard a lot of it from being really young, from maybe being 3 or 4. When I got the opportunity to start playing an instrument, I kind of, well, actually, that's a lie. My mum. Well, both my sisters are very good musicians in their own right. They both play piano and violin really, really well to a very high grade.
Oh, awesome.
But when I was young, my mum tried to get me to go to piano lessons, I think when I was 4 or 5, and I just wasn't interested at that time. But then when I was like 11 or 12, and I got the opportunity to learn how to play drums, I took it. And then basically I was in bands at school with mates.
Yeah.
And I think it just probably went from there. I just really liked the whole thing about, playing music, creating music, and that kind of thing, really. So
yeah.
And so, yeah, Yeah, when I was 11 or 12, I was playing drums in a band at school, and we were just doing AC/DC and Kiss covers and stuff like that. And
As you do.
I think it just took a hold. And I've never left it.
Grabbed you. Yeah. What about guitar then? When did that come into your life? When did you start, thinking I'm going to play this instrument now?
Oh gosh. I'd always tried to play guitar a little bit. Some people in the band now would probably say I still am trying to play guitar. So I think it was probably in the 90s. I got a band together with some mates when we were at art college.
Yeah.
And I think because of the way I played guitar, I'm not really sure how I guess.
You play guitar, don't be.
I guess it was very. It was a very simple and basic way of doing it, because I'd not had any lessons or anything like that. So it was all. I'm sort of I'm kind of self-taught. I didn't want to learn anyone else's bad habits, basically. So I've just got all my own. And and so in the 90s, I was in a band called Group Dog Drill. And basically, I was sort of encouraged to be the guitarist and singer of that band by the bass player, because he kind of sort of said, if because we auditioned other guitarists. Some were okay, some had great personalities, not very good on guitar. Some had great guitar stuff, but not very great personalities. So, so eventually, the bass player just said, right, well, you've got to do it, because no one's going to do how you do it, and how you do it kind of makes the sound of the band. So it kind of came from there, really. And because it was a band that had like a record deal and stuff like that, we were able to like rehearse every day. So I kind of got okay.
Yeah.
I was probably better than I am now, to be honest. I have to make sure I pick up the right guitar, because then I have to, make sure I'm playing it in the right place. Because then I'd have to adapt it to something else. And if I learnt it in a certain, if I learnt it on the wrong guitar, there'd be hell to pay.
Oh, that's
eventually.
an awesome way of doing it. I'm assuming then you have lots of guitars. Like, do you have labels above them saying this is in this tuning? So you remember? Oh yeah,
I've got 3 rooms full of guitars. It's like Neil Young's house here,
You've just released a brand new single for you guys. It's a cover of Jimmy Barnes' Good Times, of course, famously kind of in the film The Lost Boys vampire film. Why have you guys chosen that particular track to cover and put out there to everyone?
Well, Good Times it's a great song.
Awesome song.
It's originally it's by a band called an Australian band called the Easy Beats.
Oh, is it actually? I didn't know that. I thought it was a Barnes track in excess kind of thing.
No, I think that they covered it for the soundtrack for Lost Boys.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So and it's a song written by George Young, who is Malcolm and Angus's older brother from AC/DC.
Yeah.
So I've always been a fan of that track because Steve Marriott from the Small Faces sang on it as well. And the original idea was that we were thinking about just doing an EP first and then doing an album. Obviously that's happened now anyway, but the idea was to kind of carry on doing what we'd previously done with our EPs, when we first started, which was, it had a cover on it, or our interpretation of a song, and then a single from the album, and then two extra tracks that unfortunately didn't make the album for whatever reason.
Right.
But Good Times was, I lost my mum the year before last, and she really liked that track, and so I just remember thinking about what a decent cover it might be. And so I kind of researched it a little bit to see whether or not it had been redone by anybody, and I think it really hasn't been done that much in the last 20 years since Lost Boys was, like since it was on the Lost Boys soundtrack. So I kind of mentioned it to Ozzy, who's not the biggest In Excess fan.
Yeah.
and I think he was kind of put off a little bit by it at first.
Right. Okay.
Well, I set to work on trying to make it a little bit more AC/DC than what In Excess had made it.
Yes. Yeah.
And once we got over the fact that it had been quite a commercial success for In Excess,
yeah,
we just ploughed on with it and did it in our own way, really.
Yeah.
And the fact that it turned out so good, we just decided it should probably be on the album as well.
Ah, nice. I love
that. And also originally, as we were going on with the recording of it and the pre-production of it and everything, we were going to actually get Joel from Airborne to do the I guess the Steve Marriott, Jimmy Barnes bit.
Yeah.
But as we started getting towards recording the track properly, it became apparent that was going to be a difficult thing to kind of try and sort out. So
during lockdown.
So I made Ozzy do it.
You made him.
And he did a great job. I mean, he's got a great vocal, and he's only really ever doing backing vocals. So his time to shine a little bit, really.
I loved it.
Let's go! I'm gonna have a good time tonight. Rock and roll music's gonna play all night.
I thought it was an absolutely epic rendition of that track, and obviously, like you say, I know that it's not been covered often because otherwise I would have known as well about the one previously before Lost Boys, but I'm 24, so that's the only kind of rendition that I've ever heard. But then you guys came along and did it, and I loved it, and obviously I heard it from Rob sent it to me, and I listened to it, and I was like, this is so cool, and I played it on my radio show, but I loved your rendition. Right. I thought it was brilliant, and I think it's a really good feel good song as well, and I think for the circumstances, for the time, I think putting it out, is that why you kind of did it, during lockdown?
Yeah, like I said, it was a favourite of my mum's, so it kind of, it brought back some great memories from that, and also, obviously, for the times that we're in right now, it was very apt to try and do that, because it's one of those feel good songs that actually just makes you want to go out and do it, it makes you want to go out. It's one of those, it's the sort of song that I would put on before I was going out to a gig, just to get me vibed up for going out,
Oh, 100%. It's a great tune, and like I say, your version's brilliant. And obviously Thanks. It comes off the EP that's coming soon on the 12th of February.
That's correct, yes.
Tell us about the EP. What can we expect?
Hey, well, the EP is called Death Proof.
Yeah.
The title was kind of inspired by our producer who's done most of our music. He's done all of our music actually, because we were having a conversation about when we've played live, and because we play really loud, have we ever worn ear defenders or had earplugs in? And we haven't, I mean, over this time we've been very lucky, touch wood, that it, the volume has never affected our hearing, and I guess pretty much for the same as him, really. Yeah. And then I had like a bit of a mental dream that involved his head, and that's how all the the artwork and the concept for that kind of came apart, really, with the skull with the lightning bolts going in each ears, and so we'd kind of spent a little bit of time thinking about the album and the tracks that were going to go on the album.
Yeah.
And we kind of made like some positive steps forward in which tracks needed to go on the album.
Yeah. And
so because we'd recorded 18 songs towards the album.
That's a lot.
From the 40 or so that we'd written for it, since the beginning of the year or whatever. Mm-hmm. And the beginning of last year, should I say? Yeah. and it was kind of hard to choose which songs were going to go where, but we were in that good position where we loved the song so much. It was kind of hard choosing which ones were going to be on the album, which ones
Yeah,
weren't.
I bet.
So when we chose the album songs, we knew which other songs we had left.
Yeah.
And we just decided, we just thought, well, let's put an EP out, because people are dying for new music. The album's not coming out until March.
Yeah.
Let's give them 4 songs. It's going to be a great sounding EP anyway, because we're really proud of those songs, and they could have been on the album. It's just, for one reason or another, they didn't make it. Maybe because there was a song of a similar sort of type on the album, and we didn't, and so we wanted to have like a bit of a mixture, more of a mixture on the album.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's quite deep, the EP. So obviously, it starts off with Good Times, and then there's a track called The Weight, which is like really, really sort of standard heavy Black Spiders kind of
that
tune.
typical sound.
And we've kind of gone on it's gone on a little bit of a journey, and I'm sure Black Spiders fans will love it, as will I think anyone that kind of likes heavier sort of music. And then we've got then there's another song called Ancient Astronaut.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Which is very sort of Sabbath-y orientated. Because we try to find line between AC/DC and Black Sabbath, we always kind of fall in between at times. So and then and then there's another song on there that again didn't make the album, called Power in the Darkness, which is kind of addressing mental health issues. Because during this time, everyone's kind of, I guess everyone's had a little bit of that going on, and so have we. So it's but it's all upbeat, and it's quite a lengthy EP. It's only coming out on digital at the moment.
Yes, of course.
Due to the fact that it's difficult. It's going to be difficult to get anything out into shops at the moment.
100%.
Due to what's going on, and because we're not touring, having all that physical product, it's probably better to focus it on other things. Obviously, we've got the physical album coming out. And so it might see the light of day at some point in a physical form, but at the moment, it's just going to be digital. So.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, like, I saw a couple of people asking you about the, physical copy of the EP, and I know that obviously Black Spider's page answered, I don't know who it was obviously that replied, but saying the same thing that you've just said. But it's cool to know that people might have that in the future, if they are excited about having a physical copy, because for you guys with the album that we'll get to talk about in a bit more detail, obviously it's your first full-length album in about 7 years. So why a full-length album now? Because obviously if digital it is like really popular at the minute with streaming and Spotify, and I know a lot of younger audiences will reach music that way as well. Why do you think you guys decided to do an actual full-length an album again when people release EPs at the minute and singles?
I guess there's a couple of different reasons, really. We wanted to kind of make a statement about being back. And because we've had such an outpouring of music, we thought, an album was probably a good way to go. Obviously, it's not particularly modern thinking, doing an album, but we have a large fan base that's still like physical product, and the old school way of actually getting an album that's got some artwork with it and things like that.
Absolutely.
So it's not all about digital. And there's something to be said about physical things. It's that whole sort of engrossing yourself in the artwork and everything else that's going on while you're listening to the music. So that's one of the reasons. One of the other reasons, like I just was saying, there's for EPs and small and sort of singles and things physically. The market for that is getting smaller and smaller. whereas, you know, there's quite an upsurge in physical products, especially vinyl, you know, nowadays. So, you know, the album isn't coming out on vinyl straight away, but that's also due to a production factor.
Right.
But it will be coming out on vinyl for sure.
Yeah.
It's just that because of these times that we're in, and the fact that lots of people have, you know, realised that in certain ways music is a currency now, because there's no live gigs, that so many people are trying to get things produced on vinyl. So there's a huge queue to get into.
I bet.
And there's also lots of red tape now with all the things going on because we're out of the EU. And, you know, it's obviously, well, not obviously, but it is, you know, a financial issue as well.
Yeah.
You know, because we're doing it all ourselves again, so it's one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I love what you just said then about physical copies, because, like, I asked you because a lot of people that are my age as well go to Spotify all the time for music, and I actually never used to do that. I only do it now for my radio show because that's how I've got to do things. But I love vinyl and I love CD. I've got all of them behind me. I've got a big pile of vinyl behind me, and I've got it from my dad and things like that. So I do think it's really important that you keep that stuff alive, because I know what you're saying, and it's a different experience, isn't it, when you're having something to physically look at, and you're on a better journey, aren't you, when you've got like a physical thing in front of you. Better vibes, you know, you get a better feel for what's actually being said in the music and that kind of thing. So obviously that's really important for you guys as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, you know, I mean, that's, you know, like we kind of grew up doing that, you know, and listening to vinyls and getting vinyls and swapping vinyls at school with friends and things like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they, you know, I think, I'm sure I read somewhere that vinyls, like that vinyl had overtaken CD sales at some point, like the other year. I mean, and even tapes have come back, you know, it's one of those, it's really, really strange.
Yeah.
You know, that like all those physical formats are still sought after by people. But, you know, I mean, there is a certain thing that when a record is cut onto CD and especially onto vinyl, that the actual quality of sound is better than digital. There's just something about it. It's got much more character, and, you know, I think it's cut at it, like when it's done on vinyl, it's cut at such a slow rate. When it's done on like heavy vinyl, the actual quality of the sound is just so much better. So, you know,
generally better. Yeah, no, definitely. And I love the fact that it's going to be out on vinyl. So if anybody wants to check that out, keep updated with the Black Spiders. And I just want to mention as well, so the album is out on March 26th.
It is.
It features so many tracks. Now, I looked at the track listing for this on the Planet Rock News website, because obviously Wyatt is involved in the band now, as well as drummer. So I checked out what your track list is. And again, going back to like the song titles and the kind of dark meanings behind some of those song titles, I wondered if like COVID had completely affected the mood of that, you know, as a writing process. How did the kind of inspiration for the songs come about for you guys?
Lyrically and things, and well, you know, a lot of the songs had like working titles to start with, and it's a process that we kind of discuss quite a lot on our Patreon. We've got like a Patreon fan club site, and on there we kind of do like a demo discussion. So we kind of talk about each song in depth, and, you know, how it started out, where the ideas came from, how it developed. We play a little bit of the song when we've been, you know, like the demos of the song and how that develops. And, you know, I mean, lyrically, I mean, like some of the themes were just, you know, it was a general thing I was looking at to kind of see what, you know, like what kind of things might people be interested in, because obviously we've not particularly been living any kind of rock and roll lifestyle for the last sort of 18 months or two, you know, whatever it is, amount of time. So, you know, it's just dealing with a lot of things, you know, I mean, previously it's kind of lyrically, a lot of the stuff before was like, you know, boys' own adventure stuff, really. But the recent songs, like I say, you know, they deal with, like, you know, a lot of, I guess a lot of darker things, you know, like with depression and things like that, and, you know, but also, you know, like revenge and, you know, I guess, yeah. Well, you know, I mean, I kind of looked at different bands to see, you know, to see what their songwriting was, you know, like where they got their inspiration from. Yeah. And Black Sabbath is always a good one to go to, because they've always got like lots of different things. So they talk about, you know, they talk about depression, they talk about war, they talk about drug abuse. Yeah. They talk about, you know, all these kind of things. Yeah. And so, you know, and so it kind of helped me to kind of get a structure to some song ideas. Yeah. And you know, and the band have all, you know, since we took a break, we've all had pretty big upheavals in our personal lives. Yeah. And so you know, some of the lyrics, you know, kind of are expressing dealing with that, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. And
you know,
yeah,
so they were like a little bit, you know, so there's like there's a little bit of truth to them, but, like, you know, at the same time you try to make it a bit more of a fantasy, so it's yeah, so it's not always straightforward, basically.
Yeah.
Difficult. Yeah. That's a difficult question. I'm sorry.
I know, it's all right. I can see, like, you're really thinking about where the inspiration came from, because I do love when people can be honest in the lyrics. I think it makes for a better song. It's a truer song, I think, for someone to be able to perform. Because, like, for you, obviously, I mean, you have a heavy, you know, influence in writing the lyrics, don't you? And you sing. So for you to perform those songs that you've written, if they mean things that are really important to you, and if, you know, it's the truth, do you find that it's easier to perform that way? You know, you're not having to just, like, you know, sing something like, I don't know, like a party song, or is it harder to kind of have to deliver something that's so honest?
No, it's usually okay. I mean, you know, it obviously depends how far down the line you are from when you wrote the song.
Yeah.
Obviously, all these songs are fairly new, and so all those feelings are kind of still there.
Yeah.
But, you know, as time moves on, like, say, you know, songs from the first EP that we ever did and the first album, you know, that is coming up to 10 years now. Yeah. Sometimes the original lyrical inspiration or intent becomes something else, so you can still mean it.
Yeah, of course.
You know, like, well, you know, if you're not really passionate enough to kind of give something 100% every time, what's the point in doing it, really?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's, in fact, there is one of the songs on the new album which is called Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
I know, catchy, inspirational title. I know. It's kind of a little bit tongue in cheek, because it's kind of, you know, it's kind of putting down rock and roll in a way.
Right.
Or that's, you know, that's what it seems like on the surface. But basically, that was inspired by, you know, from being in a band for this long, and playing with other bands and being at festivals and meeting lots of other bands, and talking to other people. That was kind of inspired by people that moan about having a rock and roll lifestyle, and I kind of don't get it. You know, I've never. It's, you know, some people, like, would kill to be in a band and live a rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah.
But to actually be in a band and moan about it and kind of, you know, just don't do it. Go and do something else. You know, go and be a bus driver. Go and be something else. You know, don't be in a band if you haven't got something to say, and you can't say it with any kind of conviction. Just don't do it. You know.
I love that, and that actually is really relevant to a question I was going to ask you.
Cool.
About, have you got a? It's a really random one. I ask everybody this question, but do you have a motto, a saying, or a quote that you like to live your life by?
I don't know. Obviously, we like to stick to a Spinal Tap quote, which is "Have a good time all the time," and that's pretty much, you know, what Black Spiders is all about, really.
This is really random as well, but I did obviously some digging whilst I was like looking for what I wanted to ask you, and I did see about your friend Esme, who is in Game of Thrones, or was famous from Game of Thrones. She played Roz.
Okay, yeah.
And I saw obviously she was in your video in 2011, and I just wondered how that came about. How, you know, your friendship, and had you been friends obviously previous to that? How did that whole come about?
Well. I'm trying to think when I first met Ez, to be honest. I think it's I think she was a fan of my previous band that I was talking about, Group Dog Drill.
That one, okay.
Back in the day, I guess when she was a teenager, probably. And Esme used to do like some performance art stuff there.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so you know, we kind of been friends for a while, and then, you know, when I was living in London, you know, we'd go out and we'd go out to the same places and everything, and then when the idea came around for doing the video for Just Like a Woman, you know, there was no one I could think of, like as soon as we started talking about what the actual video was going to be, where it was going to be a woman that was going to, you know, get the band, kill us all, put us into a soap machine and make us into soap. Yeah. The first person that came to mind was Esme, really. So, you know, so it kind of went from there. And then, you know, as that was going on, that's when she, you know, she'd been auditioning for different things, you know, and I remember when she kind of told me about her first day on Game of Thrones. It was quite a funny little anecdote that she told me about that, but I'm not really sure whether or not we can say it on air.
Right, that's okay. But bless her. I mean, yeah, I see. I'm really late to the party, and it's a really random question, a bit of a side swipe that I asked you that, but it's just because I watched it with my boyfriend, and he was a huge fan of Game of Thrones, and I'd never seen it ever. I don't know how I got through without ever seeing this program. And I watched it over lockdown. We finished it in about 2.5 weeks, and I absolutely loved it. And then when obviously I did a bit of digging about, you know, your previous like history with Black Spiders, I saw that and I was like, I have to ask Pete about this. So yeah, that was my own little personal interest.
That's good. Well, you know, Esme's done some music stuff recently. I think she's done a bit of, I think she did some, I don't know if it was with Tool. It was definitely with Maynard Keenan. I'm not sure if it was with Lucifer or actually it could have been with Tool. And I know she'd done a little bit of stuff with Marilyn Manson at one point. So
right, okay, I had no idea about any of that, so that's really cool to know. I'll definitely check all that stuff out. But anyway, back to you guys. Thank you for telling that story. Back to you guys. I just want to finish on like a final happy note of, have you got a message that you would like to send out to anybody who's Black Spiders fans, followers, lovers of your music? Do you have anything you'd like to say or let them know?
Well, I guess all I can say is at the moment, you know, is we can't wait to get out and play some gigs, because we know how much, you know, the people that come to see us play love what we do and have as much of a good time at our gigs as much as we do. I mean, you know, that was evident even from when we did our farewell shows. You know, they were some of the best gigs that we'd done, and you know, I mean, obviously there's a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a light at the end of the tunnel to all this, you can be sure that it's us that's holding that light, taking people forward. And you've got some great music coming from us soon. You know, the EP's amazing. It only kind of shows a little tip of the iceberg of what the album's going to be like and what other things are going to come after the album. the album is amazing. You know, there's 12 tracks on there as well. You know, each one of them is a banger. In the words of our own Ozzy, each one of those songs will punch you in the face so hard you'll be on the floor. So there you go. That's what you can expect. And you know, yeah, just if you want to know more, come across to our Patreon. You know, you can sign up for as much as £2 a month, and you can get updates on everything that's going on with the band. You get to hear music first, you get to see videos first, you get to see all the artwork that's going on, you get to have chats with the band. You know, there's just so much going on, and you get to see all that whole process of how we made the record in the studio as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for that, Pete. Good little in-depth little insight there. And definitely, if people want to obviously follow you guys online or Patreon or whatever, I will put all the links in the description, and obviously the video as well for you. But yeah, that is everything. Thank you so much for chatting to me.
It's okay. Been a pleasure. It's great to get all that out of my brain.
You're welcome. Yeah, no, it's been awesome to meet you. I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Pete. See you later, and I will catch you
later. Bye.
Later.